At the edge of the American continent, where land thins into mangrove roots and the Atlantic breathes against the shore, Miami in 1900 barely feels like a city at all. Picture a humid morning just after sunrise. The air is thick, heavy with salt and the smell of wet earth. Mosquitoes drift lazily above shallow water, and the soundscape is dominated not by engines or music, but by insects, birds, and the distant lap of tides. A handful of wooden buildings sit scattered near the mouth of the Miami River, surrounded by sawgrass, pine rocklands, and swamp. This is a frontier outpost, more wilderness than settlement, and almost nothing about it suggests the global city that will one day rise here. At the turn of the 20th century, Miami's population is so small it can be counted in the hundreds. Life moves slowly, dictated by heat, weather, and geography. The city's incorporation is still years away, and the land itself feels fragile, as if it might reclaim anything humans attempt to build. Transportation is primitive. Dirt paths serve as roads, boats are the most reliable way to move people and supplies, and the arrival of a train is still a dream being pushed by ambitious developers. Nights are dark, illuminated by lanterns rather than electric lights, and silence settles heavily once the sun goes down. Work in 1900 Miami is physical and uncertain. Most people labor directly against the land, clearing forests, draining swamps, fishing coastal waters, or growing crops like citrus and pineapples. Every task is shaped by the environment. Heat slows the body. Storms can erase weeks of progress in a single afternoon. Hurricanes are a distant but ever-present threat, whispered about more than understood. Wealth is scarce, and survival depends on cooperation, grit, and patience, rather than innovation or speed. Housing reflects this reality. Homes are simple wooden structures, raised slightly off the ground to avoid flooding. They are built for airflow, with wide porches and open windows to catch the breeze. There is little separation between work and home, between nature and shelter. Wildlife is not something seen on a screen or behind glass. It is a daily presence, slipping through yards, climbing rooftops, and sharing space with people whether invited or not. Social life in early Miami is intimate and limited. Everyone knows everyone else, and newcomers are immediately noticed. The population includes settlers from other parts of the United States, Bahamian immigrants, and native communities whose presence long predates the town itself. Racial and economic divisions exist, even at this small scale, shaping who owns land, who works it, and who holds power. Still, the town depends on collective effort. There are no massive institutions to rely on, no safety nets, only neighbors and shared necessity. Technology in 1900 Miami is minimal. Communication with the rest of the country is slow and unreliable. News arrives days or weeks late. Medical care is basic, and illness can be deadly. Electricity is rare, refrigeration almost non-existent, and modern conveniences are luxuries few can imagine. The city's relationship to the outside world is distant. Miami is not yet a destination. It is a place people pass through reluctantly or arrive at with cautious hope. Then, almost quietly at first, change begins to arrive on steel rails. The extension of the railroad southward transforms Miami's fate. What was once isolated becomes connected. Supplies arrive faster. People follow. The land, once seen as hostile, is rebranded as exotic and full of promise. Over the decades, Miami grows, stumbles, rebuilds, and reinvents itself again and again, each era layering new identity over the last. Now shift your view forward to Miami in 2026. The same sun rises over the Atlantic, but it reflects off glass towers instead of mangroves. The air is still warm, still heavy, but it hums with motion. Highways pulse with traffic. Planes descend in steady rhythm toward one of the busiest airports in the world. Cruise ships loom like floating cities at the port. The soundscape is constant, a mix of engines, voices, music, and the distant roar of the ocean filtered through urban life. Miami in 2026 is a global crossroads. Its population has swelled into the millions across the metropolitan area, drawing people from Latin America, the Caribbean, Europe, and beyond. Languages overlap in conversation, signage, and media. Spanish flows as naturally as English, and cultural identity is not singular but layered, fluid, and constantly evolving. The city no longer looks inward for survival. It looks outward, positioning itself as a gateway between continents. Everyday life in modern Miami is fast-paced and visually striking. Residents wake to the glow of smartphones rather than lantern light. Weather forecasts, news, and global events arrive instantly. Work spans industries unimaginable in 1900. Finance, technology, real estate, entertainment, healthcare, and tourism dominate the economy. Remote work allows people to earn income connected to markets thousands of miles away, all while sitting in high-rise apartments overlooking Biscayne Bay. Transportation tells the story of scale and speed. Cars dominate the landscape, filling multi-lane highways and sprawling suburbs. Public transit exists, but the city's design reflects decades of automobile dependence. Ride-sharing services, electric vehicles, and micro-mobility options add new layers to movement. Boats still matter, but now they are yachts and cargo ships rather than lifelines. The train that once symbolized progress has been joined by planes that collapse distance into hours. Housing in 2026, Miami reveals stark contrasts. Luxury condominiums rise along the waterfront, their balconies stacked like glass shelves facing the sea. Inland neighborhoods hold older homes, dense apartment complexes, and communities shaped by waves of migration. Affordability has become a defining challenge. The same climate and beauty that draw wealth also push longtime residents to the margins. Where homes in 1900 were built to survive nature, homes in 2026 are built to display status, investment, and modern design, even as they face renewed environmental risk. Social structure in modern Miami is complex and layered. Opportunity exists alongside inequality. Wealth concentrates in certain districts, while other neighborhoods struggle with rising costs and limited access to resources. The city's diversity fuels creativity, cuisine, music, and art, making Miami a cultural force far beyond its geographic size. At the same time, that diversity reflects global instability, as many residents arrive seeking refuge from political or economic turmoil elsewhere. Technology has reshaped nearly every aspect of daily life. Medicine extends lifespans that would have seemed miraculous in 1900. Climate-controlled buildings defy the heat. Digital networks allow instant connection across the globe. Yet this reliance on technology also exposes vulnerability. Power outages, system failures, and cyber risks can disrupt the rhythm of the city just as surely as storms once did. The environment, once the dominant force shaping Miami's existence, has become both a victim and a warning. The wetlands that surrounded early Miami have been drained, paved, or confined. The Everglades, once seen as an obstacle, is now recognized as a fragile ecosystem essential to the region's survival. Sea levels rise slowly but relentlessly, pushing saltwater into streets on sunny days and flooding areas that were once considered safe. The same ocean that made Miami desirable now threatens its future. In 1900, nature dictated terms. In 2026, humanity negotiates with consequences. Engineers build seawalls. Planners redesign infrastructure. Scientists warn, model, and measure. The city invests in resilience, not out of abstract concern, but because the stakes are immediate and visible. Miami's relationship with water has come full circle, from dependence to dominance, and now to uneasy coexistence. Globally, Miami's significance has transformed completely. In 1900, it barely registered on a national map. In 2026, it is a hub of international finance, tourism, and culture. Its influence stretches through trade routes, digital networks, and media. Decisions made here ripple outward, just as global forces shape the city in return. Miami no longer waits for the world to arrive by ship or rail. It is embedded in the world's constant flow. Yet, despite all this change, certain threads remain unbroken. The sun still sets in dramatic color over the water. Storms still command respect. People still arrive with hope, chasing opportunity and reinvention. Miami has always been a place of beginnings, whether for settlers carving homes from swamp or for immigrants building new lives in towering cities. The contrast between 1900 and 2026 is not just a story of growth, but of acceleration. What once took generations now unfolds in decades. What once required physical endurance now demands adaptability and foresight. Miami's transformation mirrors humanity's broader journey, from local survival to global interconnection, from harmony with nature to dominance over it, and now toward a reckoning with the limits of that dominance. As the documentary draws to a close, imagine standing at the edge of Biscayne Bay, looking out at the skyline as evening lights flicker on. Beneath those lights lie layers of history, from muddy riverbanks to concrete foundations, from lantern glow to LED brilliance. Miami is not simply a city that changed. It is a city that embodies the passage of time itself, showing how ambition, environment, culture, and technology intertwine. The Miami of 1900 reminds us how small human presence once was against nature's scale. The Miami of 2026 reminds us how powerful human influence has become, for better and for worse. Together, they tell a story not just about one city, but about progress, risk, resilience, and the constant tension between what we build and what we inherit. In that story, Miami stands as both a triumph and a question, asking what the next century will demand, and whether we will listen to the lessons written into its past.